My first Christmas card came in the mail this week, and the award for getting their cards out early goes to my younger brother Steve and his wife Elisa. Its arrival heralded one of the holiday traditions that I love, receiving and opening up Christmas cards from friends and family in the next few weeks. Opening the cards can be a gift in themselves. We might hear from someone we've lost touch with, and they're a great reminder of all those who care for us and all those that we care about. But I also love the cards themselves. Sometimes they're silly, causing me to laugh right out loud. One of my favorites asked on the cover, "What would have happened if there were 3 wise women instead of 3 wise men?" You opened it up and inside and said, they would have brought practical gifts like diapers. And they would have asked for directions, so arrived on time. I also look forward to those slightly more serious cards that wish me and mine a blessed holiday with that cute picture of a puppy with a Santa hat on the front of them. And then there are those with pictures of angels and doves proclaiming the birth of the Prince of Peace, or wishing peace on earth and goodwill towards all. Their sentiments remind me of God's love and of the hopes that I have that these promises will someday be true. However, sometimes they do appear to be just that, mere sentiments, mushy and giving us a temporary warm feeling or making us go, oh, but is grounded in reality as fairy tales. They have an ethereal quality of hanging in the air, that they belong to a world other than ours, the one in which we live, and that their words are discarded as quickly as the cards that contain them. For as we look around, we ask, where is the peace? Where is the goodwill? As we light the candle representing peace this morning, these questions seem to echo and reverberate. So far, this Advent season has been punctuated with reminders of all the ways we don't live in peace with each other, all the ways that we treat each other with suspicion and fear instead of goodwill. We are witnessing thousands of people proclaiming that something is broken, that there isn't peace or goodwill for them now and during the rest of the year. They are crying out that a peace without justice isn't real peace. These events and protests are raising troubling questions for many of us about where we are as a society. They raise questions about our institutions and the people who work in them as they protect and serve in the administration of justice. And they raise perhaps the most troubling question of all: what exactly can anyone do about it? This is the atmosphere within which we light this candle. These are the conditions that exist as we hear the words from Isaiah promising comfort. The words from Mark's gospel, the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ. We hear those in the midst of angry accusations from all sides about who and what is really at fault in all this. So how do these words, these promises of God, sound interspersed with the reality of what we see on our TV screens and hear in the news? Are they merely pie-in-the-sky hopes that we really can't expect to ever see fulfilled? The opening promise of comfort in Isaiah probably sounded as out of place when it was first heard as it might today. It was spoken to the people of Israel after they had been deposed by Babylon from their land and all that connected them with their identity and communities. And that followed decades of their nation living in fear of such a disaster. And there was nothing on the horizon to indicate to them that any of that was about to change. But these words of comfort aren't empty words. The prophet voices God's desire for peace and the call for God's agents to bring a comfort that goes far beyond a pat on the back and just saying, there, it will be okay. It is, in the words of Walter Brueggemann, a comfort that declares a transformative solidarity and that promises a powerful intervention that creates new possibility. These words promise more than solace. It promises that there are those who are preparing the way, even then, for the exile to be finished and for them to be restored. They promise that even then, even now, God is at work despite what you see. Even if the way that this all will happen is not yet discernible, the people are promised that it is coming and that they can live within the hope and the comfort of the promise of God. For God's promises aren't static, merely hanging there until one day they are magically fulfilled. Or worse yet, nor are they empty words meant to placate, to inspire warm feelings in us that quiet our anxiety, but never make a real change. God's promises are active, participatory. They set something in motion. They birth new life. We can hear them and anticipate their coming true. So we expect them to happen, and we live accordingly. Think of how everyday promises work in your life. If someone promises to pick up your child at school, you don't show up when the final bell rings. You expect that they will be there and act accordingly. When someone promises to give you a ride to a doctor's appointment, you don't keep calling your friends asking for a ride. You get your things together so that you are ready when they arrive. These actions don't cause those promises to come true. Rather, they are actions that live out the anticipation that these will become a reality. Your child will be picked up. You will get that ride. And so, in the meantime, we act accordingly. Mark's gospel opens with his own promise that what follows is the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. First, he promises that this book is going to contain good news. But as the ads say, wait, there's more. For what follows, he says, is only the beginning. It isn't over when the book ends. We are invited to share this good news of Jesus and are urged to become part of preparing the way that God is and will be making to bring those promises to full life. The images and the sounds coming out of Ferguson, New York, and cities across the nation are disturbing. Some make us wonder if there ever really will be a change. Images such as the one Pastor John talked about last week that had a juxtaposition of a banner declaring season's greetings over a street where rioters and police clashed violently. Similar incidents and images of protest and distrust have gone viral, have been shared by millions over the internet and other forms of social media. But there was one more picture I came across that went viral this week. It was taken at a protest in Portland, Oregon. And it's a picture I believe we need to see. A picture that shows the good tidings of peace being shared in the midst of all this, at least for one moment. It shows a 12-year-old black boy, tears streaming down his face, and a white police officer hugging in the midst of a Ferguson-related protest. 12-year-old Devonte Hart had been greatly grieved by the news reports of what had happened with the Ferguson grand jury and upset by the resulting violence. Devonte had also raised money quite often for charity, wearing a sign that proclaimed free hugs to anyone who wanted them. The grand jury raised fears in him of what would happen to him when he was no longer 12 and wearing free hug signs. Would he be in danger simply for being? Wanting to do something, he headed along with his parents and his two siblings to downtown Portland, hoping to spread the message that all people matter with his free hug sign. And they ended up coming upon this peaceful protest. And so standing there at the edge of the protest, next to the police barricades, Devonte heard speakers who encapsulated his own anxieties and experiences. And he saw people hugging and crying out of their own fears and frustrations. And so he began to cry. Police Sergeant Brett Barnum was policing the perimeter of the crowd when he noticed Devonte crying and holding his sign offering free hugs. Sergeant Barnum motioned for Devonte to come on over for a moment. And despite Devonte's obvious and visible trepidation, he did approach. After some initial talk to break the ice, the sergeant asked Devonte, "Why are you crying?" Devonte hesitantly told the officer he was crying because of what had happened in Ferguson and elsewhere with police and black men, and of his own feelings as a young black boy that someday this could be him. Sergeant Barnum then did something incredible. He didn't try to justify or explain what had happened. He just sighed and said, "I know, I'm sorry." Then pointing to Devonte's sign, Barnum asked, "Could I get one of those?" That led to the hug, which led to the picture that's been posted on Facebook and shared across the world. Barnum commented on it, knowing how he struggled with police, his bravery and courage to catch my eye and approach me were very impressive. What struck me most about this photo was not only the hug, but what led up to it. There was a boy reaching outside his fears, a police officer taking time to listen and empathize to somebody obviously in fear of him, and all taking place in the midst of a situation where both had the right to feel on edge and distrusting, where both had the right to be worried about his own personal safety, whether it's from each other, the reaction of the crowd, or the other officers there. Both Devonte and Sergeant Barnum, for at least a moment, were sharing the glad tidings of peace that we sing about during these holidays. For at least that moment, two people who are currently being told that they need to be fearful or angry at each other or suspicious of each other. Instead, live their lives as if they expected peace and justice to come soon. Whatever happens after that, for that brief moment, these two unlikely people were brothers, bearers of glad tidings of what could be, of what is the source of joy of this season. And in their own way, maybe they prepared a small piece of the way on which God will bring ultimate reconciliation and peace. You and I are called to be bearers of that same peace that reaches out to another despite our own fears. You and I are called to reach out with comfort to those crying in pain over what they have seen and experienced, despite our own suspicions or our own fears of safety. You and I are called to take time to listen and to try to understand, even those we disagree with, not change their minds. We are being called to be part of God's promises, alive in us and the world today as we wait, as we anticipate the unfolding all around us and through us. Then we not only hear God's promises, we become part of them. Peace on earth and goodwill towards all. On the second Sunday of Advent, we are called not only to light a candle of peace, but to be part of preparing the way. Amen. That hymn often closes our Christmas Eve services, but it was actually written by Isaac Watts as a hymn for Advent. And so we sing not of babies in mangers, of cows lolling out in the field, but we sing of that day when God's reign is so evident that even the fields and the floods and the mountains cry out in joy. Go out and be bearers of that peace that will bring that joy. Listen for the whispers of it, even now, singing to you from the trees, from the air, from the earth, from others. And hold fast to the promise that the day is coming, that the day has come, when God's promise of peace for all and good tidings for all people is coming true. May God bless you and keep you until we meet again.